Oh, man.
Hey, old man on the Mat crew. This is Tony Jones coming at you with another great episode of Old Man on the Mat. Guys, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I know I say that all the time, but at our age, man, every day we get up and take a good breath, it's a good day, right? So I'm fired up about it, guys. Oh, before I go any further, guys, let's go ahead and get all the stuff out there where you like and share all the things. We're on all the platforms where you get your podcasts, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, all these other places. We got it everywhere. Make sure you like and share us. And thank you so much for supporting our merch out there at oldmanonthemat.com. Like I said before, we do have rash guards coming out here real soon. Actually, they're here. We just got to get them out. So we're excited about that, guys. But with that being said, our guest coming on today, another fired up martial artist out there. I love talking to different backgrounds and fitness and martial. But what I found is over years, as you guys have heard from the podcast coming through, is every different background has got their foot in some form of martial arts. And that just blows my mind, guys. But the guy we have today, he's a doctor of acupuncture, which is pretty cool. He's a 6th-degree black belt in Kung Fu. He's also a black belt in I keep messing that up. I'm sorry, brother. Kajukenbo. Sorry about that, brother. We'll fix that as we talk. He's also a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Guys, let's get it together for my guy, Corey Nyenhuis. How you doing, brother?
Oh, very good. Thank you, sir.
Man, I am sorry my dyslexia kicked in when I was trying to say your martial arts.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Kajukenbo.
Kajukenbo. There it is. There it is. Man, you know what? Tempo. I remember back in the day, I used to go to all these open tournaments and you see the Kempo guys come on with Ed Parker and all those guys.
Yeah,
man. Though you guys were intense, man. I was like, dude, I just want to choke a guy. Don't beat me up first.
Kajukenbo is a little bit different from Ed Parker's Kempo.
Okay.
They did start in Hawaii. They did have some similar, what's it called? Influences.
Okay, yeah.
But their presentation's very, very different.
Really?
Kajukenbo, it's fun. So it started in 1947. A group of guys got together and just started trading techniques, So you had a guy that was studying primarily karate, a guy that was studying primarily judo, jiu-jitsu at the time.
Yeah.
Some Chinese kung fu. You had a guy whose primary training was like Filipino styles.
Okay.
And they just started mixing together like, hey, this seems to always really work when I fight a judo guy.
Okay.
So they're so it was a sort of a modern-ish MMA style before MMA got popular.
Okay.
And their training methodology was like realism, and it was brutal. And they used to joke that class wasn't over till there was blood on the floor.
That's good stuff. Old school, man. I like it.
So yeah, I mean, very, very old school, very hard hitting, in your face, very aggressive style.
Wow. That's
My
good
son
stuff.
trains in an Ed Parker offshoot Kempo. And although it can be very aggressive, it looks more like what you would expect from an Americanized version of karate,
Gotcha. Yeah.
A little more boxing involved, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Fast hands, things like that.
So that style was like the original, like you just said, original MMA, man. It was designed for street fighting, right?
Yeah. Before Hawaii was a state, it was kind of, I mean, you read the stories and they say it was just kind of lawless and just kind of a rough place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you'd imagine then you had all the American service members mixing with all the locals and you get too much beer involved and, so guys were just pounding on each other all the time back in the day, apparently, at least in Hawaii.
They were bored. What else are they going to do, man?
Right.
But you know what? I think a lot of those different styles that come out like that is what the original stuff came from, because every martial arts wasn't a dance. It was self-defense,
Absolutely. I was, in fact, I was listening to one of my favorite teachers online today, and he said that. He's like, these systems didn't survive because they were good at dancing. They survived because they were good at fighting.
Exactly.
Exactly. So at some point, they all had their merit. You can't discount a system of karate or kung fu because their practitioners today look like crap.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely
right. There's a reason
that
system's 700 years old or whatever.
Right. My old instructor, the first one I've ever had, he used to think that his philosophy was every art works out there when you go back to the core of what it was. Because you had to fight. You had to defend yourself. And then Americanized came in and started adding more katas, and katas are important, but now it's, see some of these things. I'm not gonna bash on everybody, but you see some of these things, it's just a dance nowadays. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, and that's what you have to understand what the kata was trying to show you or trying to teach.
Yeah. But I
And I
don't think
didn't
they show that
understand that.
anymore.
No, they don't. And a lot of people don't understand that when they made those katas and those forms, most of those guys back then, they couldn't read or write.
Oh, so they're looking at pictures all the time.
They couldn't even draw. How
Wow.
you couldn't afford paper to draw a picture, right?
Holy cow, yeah.
So how do you impart knowledge to somebody when you can't write a manual for them?
Right.
You
Thought
show
about
them the
that.
move in a
Yeah.
sequence.
Holy cow. You know what that reminds me of too? Back in the day, I don't know. We used to have Kung Fu channel. It was on
Yeah,
Saturday nights, and you'd watch all those Kung Fu moves with Joe, who I loved. And that's what they were doing, just showing their techniques. They weren't reading or doing all this stuff. They were just going through the
correct.
stuff, man.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, it all starts somewhere. But I believe, and as things go through, as time goes on, money comes involved. And I'm not bashing money. We all want all of it. But
absolutely.
I'm saying that it's just got more watered down to keep the customers and make the money, because you can't teach a kid how to rip a guy's throat out.
Well, and
Mama be upset.
think about this too. You can't have your kids going home broken and bruised
Right?
because mom's not going to let them come back. And you and
Exactly.
I, as older guys, I got to go to work tomorrow, right?
Right?
I can't
Exactly.
take the day off because somebody got overzealous and
Broke my arm or
messed up my
something.
knee or something.
Yeah, right? But think about this, man. At our age, and I don't mean to sound like the old guy, but get off my lawn, but
Right.
the old school guys, man. And I'm not gonna say these kids don't know what was like coming up the ranks before, but it was. I think it was harder. Well, I'm not even gonna say that. I think it was more less safety. How about that? Coming up back
Yeah.
in the day, yeah,
Uh,
less safe.
a guy I used to train with, I mean, I'm 45 and he was probably 20 years older than me. He was telling us about when he went to the first like taekwondo style tournament where they had all the foam pads.
He was like, "What is that?"
Exactly. He had never
Yeah,
seen that before. This was back, he said it was probably in the early 80s. He showed up at a tournament with a couple of his students and they were like, "Oh, we need all this weird equipment to compete today?"
yeah, right. You had to have
And that was
everything.
new to him.
Oh
They
yeah,
didn't train that way. I mean, and that's goes back to that Kajukenbo philosophy. That was all bare knuckle, you know. I
oh
wore a
yeah.
mouthpiece and that was it.
That was it, and a cup. That was it back in the '80s, man.
Yes,
The cup and
absolutely.
a
And so then you can train that way today, but you can only do it with a select few.
Right,
You can't do that with the whole class now.
right.
Today's parents aren't going to put up with it.
You
And
know, you're right.
well, you have to be honest about your intention of training, right?
Gotcha,
Some
gotcha.
of those kids don't come into the school because they want to be fighters. Some of them are just coming in for exercise or it looked fun.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
that's okay.
Yeah,
That's a good reason to be there.
yeah, yeah. That's true. You're right. It's just I look at some of this stuff and I see some of these kids nowadays, and I think it's great they're in martial arts. Period. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Me
Uh,
too.
and like I had my own studio, and the parents would say, when is the season over for martial arts? Little Johnny wants to do football. I'm like, well, this is not a season thing. Trying to get the
Right,
parents to
right.
understand that. But just seeing all the kids involved in it, man, today, just imagine what it came from. That's crazy,
Oh, yeah.
man. Crazy. But you were just saying about not having all the equipment on. But back then, that's all we knew. Even the schools were
Well,
still big, but that's all we knew.
yeah. And I didn't get into like that hard training until my 20s. So we're talking about like right around the year 2000,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Even the 20 some years since then, the dynamic around training has changed,
Yeah. It
you
really
know?
has. Yeah.
And I being a guy that did mostly Chinese martial arts before I got into jujitsu and more the combat sports, kickboxing and whatnot. It's a little bit different because a lot of the people that show up to kung fu class don't want to train hard like that.
You're right.
They
You're
want to
right.
show up, they want to do pretty forms, they want to play kung fu.
Right. Right.
which is fine if we're honest about why we're there again. If you're just there because you think it looks cool and it's good exercise, great. Be honest about that. That's not going to make you a fighter.
That's true.
I
That's
was
true.
lucky enough that I went to a school that were like, no, if we're going to do this, we're going to be able to fight. We're going to be able to throw people, all of the things.
Yeah, you had to learn self-defense, period.
Yeah. We had to
Yeah.
learn actually how to fight, how to apply it in a non-cooperative manner.
And I like that non-cooperative manner. I like that. Yes, I love that. But today, I think we've gone to such a litigious society now that everybody's, covering their own asses out there too, and all the
For
schools,
sure.
and I get it 100% because I have my studio. My gosh, you know how much insurance is. It was crazy
Mhm.
for the amount of insurance you had, man. But let's back up a little bit.
Yes,
How did
sir.
how did you start in martial arts? What was your start in that?
1984 was the Karate Kid, man.
Yeah,
And no
buddy.
joke. My mom took me to see that. I was in first grade. I think it was first grade. And I remember she bought me a Karate Kid Halloween costume after that. Like it was go time.
That's awesome. I love it.
And so ever since I saw that, and I mean, I was fascinated. I was hooked. I would pretend to practice out in the yard. We were pretty broke growing up.
Yeah.
But one of the babysitters was training pretty hard somewhere. She was a brown belt. Her name was Cindy. I think it was Cindy.
Wow.
Anyways, so she would always show me some stuff whenever she would come over to babysit. And then I remember my first lesson. I was in second grade. My mom had found a program for single moms, and I got to go do karate for the first time. And
Oh
I was
man.
so excited. I don't think I took that white belt off for a month.
That's
I
awesome.
remember putting on the uniform for the first time. And you talk about a kid on Christmas. It was like 10 Christmases at once putting this uniform on, putting that first gi on.
Man.
Just how crisp it was. I still remember to this day. I was just so excited. The
Oh man.
unfortunate part is because we didn't have a lot of money and I grew up single mom,
Yeah.
we could never stick with the program for very long. Because once the
Oh man.
trials ran out or once the coupons ran out,
Yeah.
So then see karate then. I went through the YMCA taekwondo program a couple times.
Oh, this was big back in the day too, the YMCA. That
Yeah,
was big.
yeah, yeah. I did a few classes there, but again, they were still the intro classes,
Yeah.
Never made it much past the first couple belt ranks because we just couldn't afford it. Fast forward a couple years, mom upgraded her life, and I was in high school, and I said, "Hey, mom, they opened this new dojo down the street. Can we go check it out?" And that kind of ever since then, since I was about 16, I've been training nonstop now in something.
Wow.
Yep.
Man. So when you walked on that mat and you found out that I can be in this long term, how did you
Yeah.
feel, man?
There was always I talk about this a lot to some of my friends, especially who don't understand my obsession with training, because I was a kid that did every sport as well, and I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'3". Yeah, so being a bigger guy, I played all the sports. I was offensive lineman. I was a basketball player. Actually played
Wow.
soccer a lot, even though I was not a fast guy.
Wow.
So I was always used to being athletic and being involved in sports. So when my friends will be like, "Well, what's this fascination with martial arts?" Eventually, you can't do those sports anymore
That's
for the
true.
most part. And someone's gonna be like, "No, I disagree."
No.
Here's what I'm trying to say. At some point, there's not a league for guys that are 50 years old and want to be very competitive playing soccer
Yeah,
or basketball,
exactly.
and you can find
Exactly.
a recreational league and
Yeah.
maybe get some of that outlet there, but it's not going to be that competitive league, right?
Right. Right. You're absolutely right, man. You're
I
absolutely
can
right.
be at a martial art tournament though, and I could still find a few guys within, 10 years of my age that still want to fight, that still want to mix it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true, man.
Especially with jujitsu. That's one of the best things jujitsu did for the combat sport
Yeah.
as a whole.
Oh
They
yeah.
just made it more accessible to everybody.
Oh yeah.
And
Especially,
that's a really cool thing.
oh yeah, especially that guy in our age group, like you said, like you just said, who still had that fire in their gut, but their body's not taking it anymore. The
Uh-huh.
knees quite shot and all that. You still can get on the mat and roll out a little bit, and you feel pretty good with it. You're right, man.
But I've never met a lot of, 60-year-old guys still playing basketball at even a slightly competitive level.
Right?
And I have athletes as patients, and I'm will recognize there's always the exception to the rule.
Yep.
But I live in Omaha, Nebraska, really Midwest.
Yep.
There's not a lot of recreational leagues for a lot of things here just because of where I live.
Exactly.
So if I
Exactly.
wanted to, I mean, seriously, who plays football after college?
Everybody talks about it.
I know,
That's it.
and we could find a flag football league, but who really puts pads on and goes to a competitive football league at
No.
30 years old, at 40
No.
years old?
No, that ain't happening.
No.
I'll be my couch warrior talking about the game and how
You know, most of the time, by the time you're 30, you're playing sand volleyball at the local bar. That's about it.
that's about it, man. And you wore out from that.
Uh-huh.
You ain't joking, man.
The other part of the training that I like, and I like to read philosophy, so this is gonna
Okay.
get a little deep, maybe. But I kind of agree with those old philosophers that it's a man's responsibility to be able to kick some ass, to defend himself.
Yeah, be
And
dangerous.
it's nobody else's responsibility but mine.
Yeah, I
So
like that.
even at 45, I should be able to do that.
That's true. I like that.
And it keeps me in that level, the training. Whereas when I was younger and I could run a lot better, yeah, running away was more of an option.
Yeah,
And now because my right knee doesn't like me most days, it's if I have to run more than 10 feet, I'm screwed.
that's true. That's right. Like you say, you got to get good because we ain't running no more, man. We got to be
Yeah.
able to defend ourselves. But we laugh about it, but that is true though, man. Because being an athlete, an older athlete, you've been out there for a while, and things hurt.
Yeah.
You can't run, you can't do all these things, so you have to defend yourself. You can't run from somebody or take up shooting. I like that better.
And well, since you mentioned it, I view shooting as part of my martial art, right?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
there's instances where that is not appropriate either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And I
that's
talk
true.
about it a couple times a year. I teach I'll teach some at some of the local tournaments or whatever, just a little self-defense seminar, or I'll get invited here or there just because um, of the experience that I had. And I talk about it and I call it the drunken jackass syndrome, right?
Okay.
You can't pull your gun on a drunken idiot who's just being a drunken idiot, right?
That's true. That's true.
Because there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
difference of a drunk idiot and a violent encounter, and the
Exactly.
drunk idiot could turn violent, yeah. But if he's just getting handsy with your girl, you can't,
Shoot the guy for it. Yeah, you can't do
right,
that.
right. But, you can toss him on the ground and, give him a little knee on belly to remind him that that is inappropriate.
Right? As he pukes. Yeah. Exactly. Tool belt, we call it going to the tool belt. The gun,
Yeah,
that's your last resort. Depends on the situation, but
absolutely.
most of the time that's your very last resort. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Hmm.
But have you changed much in the firearms at all throughout the years?
Yeah. I didn't really grow up shooting, but my dad is an avid shooter. A couple of my buddies are, and then one of my good buddies, who actually owns a little karate school here in Omaha. He's a shooting instructor, so we've trained a lot. Um, we run ideas off each other.
Oh, that's cool.
One of the clubs I trained at for a while, about half the guys involved there were law enforcement of some kind, so it was really prevalent there, and it was mostly just talking about weapon retention.
Okay.
Which is a big part of, if you're going to carry, you should be able to keep your gun.
Right. Or you just got a toy for somebody else.
Right.
You're right.
So, I don't train self-defense shooting as much as I used to, but I did
Mm,
there for a while, train quite a bit.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Now, do you do
I
any
mean,
blades at all or no?
yeah, actually, for a while there, I was training a couple different styles of eskrima. I like the knife work a lot.
Yeah.
Over the years, though, I think I've gotten a little jaded just because, you see some guys doing this knife work, and some of that stuff is just massively complicated
Yeah. A lot of movements and
for
yeah.
real life altercations.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not fighting a fencing master or something. We're fighting a thug with a knife, right? And
Good
he's just
point.
gonna sewing machine you, you
That's what
know.
usually happens. Yeah. That's what they say is going to happen most times. If someone has a knife, it's just going to go straight to that. You know, unless it's
Right.
called a sewing
So
machine.
I've really cut back a lot on some of the like the extra things I was training.
Okay.
So I still like to do a little stick and knife work because you can always pick up a club, right?
Yeah.
Any modified club of any kind is going to work just like in a screaming stick.
True.
I do carry blades. They're really good backup tools. I did a course on how to draw the blade and the gun at the same time.
Oh wow.
That was well. Uh, Again, this goes back to training with one of the police officers I was training. This was a woman. Um, she got in a grapple sort of with the suspect, and she couldn't draw her weapon, and he was huge,
Yeah.
and she couldn't get her gun out because he had her arm pinned to her side. Well, she had a backup blade on the other side of her belt that she could get to.
Yeah.
So she got that out, was able then to deploy that and get back to her primary weapon and then subdue the guy.
Okay.
So it
Yeah.
just kind of made sense to be able to switch back and forth in my mind. And it just goes along the line of if we're going to train self-defense, we should at least have an understanding of every aspect.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah,
Handling
I
weapons.
do a
Yeah.
little bit of everything.
Okay. And you've been studying since what age again? I'm sorry.
Since, I mean, 84 is when I got my first start, but pretty
Yeah.
much nonstop since about 16.
Okay. So man, you're full time,
So
basically your
about
whole
30
life.
years. Yeah.
That's not bad at all, man. Now let me ask you. I know we talked a little bit at the beginning when we were just shooting, dinking
Uh-huh.
around a little bit. Now, what do you think's the biggest change you've seen in the martial arts coming through the years, good or bad or whatever?
Couple, since you said good or bad, let's do one good, one bad here. Let's start
All right.
bad. Bad, kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's kind of hard to train with intensity sometimes because people don't want to,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, People have gotten a little bit softer.
Yep.
And
That's
then
true.
that's everybody has though. It doesn't matter what country you're in or whatever. It's across the board.
Yeah.
And we even see it in the medical field when I'm looking at research studies. Just people's health have gone down. They've gotten a little bit softer. Kind of hard to have a super intense session when
Yeah.
half the class can't do 10 jumping jacks or whatever.
Good point. Very good point.
The good thing is, I think the only probably good thing about the internet is that there's so much more exposure now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
UFC and MMA got popular, so now more people were looking into training for various reasons. I think that's a good thing because it opened up some opportunities, I think, for people that wouldn't have looked at it otherwise.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it just opened up an opportunity for people, maybe guys like us that have this experience and we can go contribute somewhere now,
Yeah.
like I had a little class going on at a dance school for a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
I forget how I got hooked up with them, but they had heard about me. I had some free time. They were like, hey, some of these moms had mentioned self-defense, and we thought we got this open space. Let's just host it here. So I taught
Nice.
a women's self-defense class for a couple years,
Okay. How'd that go? How'd that go with the
It,
women?
it
They
went
really
over really
receptive?
well. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just super basic stuff because when you
Yeah.
teach a class like that, you have to understand that those people are never going to train as soon as they leave the class ever.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
you got to give them a
Yeah.
couple tools that will always work with minimal effort and minimal like brain retention,
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but it was just that, it just was what it was, and it was fine. But yeah, I think that's a really good thing. You can go almost anywhere now and find some sort of martial art because all you got to do is look up on the internet.
Yeah, that's true, and it just made us all just one big family. It really has, man.
Oh yeah,
And
I
it's
mean,
ama-
and
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
being Well, I was to say, coming from sort of the obscure Chinese martial arts background, where especially being in the Midwest, it was hard to find, like real kung fu teachers.
Oh yeah.
The internet opened it up a little bit because once you have a certain knowledge and perspective of martial arts, whether it's grappling, striking, or a mix of both, now I can look at a video and go, oh, I can see what he's teaching here. So if I'm
Okay.
looking for help on a technique, I don't have to call my teacher or go out to, California where my main kung fu teacher is now and be like, hey, I need this new technique. I can see a video and I can go, oh, I can see what that is now. I can see how that throw works now.
Okay, yeah. This almost
Something like
slows it
that.
down for you. Yeah. So you
And
can look at
it just makes the acquisition of knowledge easier in this respect. And I know we can make a big joke about all the knowledge and all the dumb people now, but
brother, we don't you ain't even wrong, man.
but
Ain't that the truth?
in context, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
If you've been a wrestler your whole life and you're trying to learn some submissions, it's not going to be that hard for you to look at a video and go, oh, I understand that.
Yeah, especially being a wrestler or somebody with experience, put it that
Correct.
way. Anybody
That's what
with
I
a little
mean. Yes,
experience,
you have to have a nominal amount of experience to get a video to work for you.
Right,
If
right.
you're brand new day one white belt, and I tell the kids on my team this all the time, they'll come in and go, Corey, I saw a video of so-and-so doing this. I'm like, yeah, we can't do that. Why
Right.
not? I was like, because those were two high-level black belts doing high-level black belt things.
So that's a
We're
no.
not there. The head coach of my local team, his name is Brad, the head MMA coach. He
Yeah.
did a scissor takedown on one of the young kids the other day. So then they wanted to know how to do it. And
Oh,
I
geez.
love throwing people, right? It's my
Yeah.
favorite thing. It was a huge part of the kung fu that I studied, throwing. So they're like, Corey, how do we do this scissor takedown? And I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do that. Okay. So we go through the lesson and we do it. And I'm like, okay, guys, now you have to understand this is a fun takedown, but it can be massively dangerous to do it
Oh, yeah.
for a myriad of reasons. And I explained why, and I was like, that's why it's illegal in a lot of competitions.
Yep.
So
Knees
we
blow out.
can't do this technique unless you have direct supervision from one of the coaches.
There you go.
You know?
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
But yeah, it just goes along that line. Yeah, I was like, okay, I guess if you really
Guess we're
want
doing
to,
this.
we can. This is how slow fat Corey does it.
Right. If you can get the bad guy to stand just like this and not move
Uh-huh.
this way, I could teach that all day long,
Yep.
I thought it was funny though. But you hear all kinds of stuff. But I think a lot of that comes from, YouTube and stuff. And nothing's wrong with that if you're using it the right way, like you were saying earlier.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have a good base, you can totally watch instructionals and get
Yeah.
good content.
Exactly.
But yeah, like I said, when I get these young kids going, oh, we got this super Barambolo double heel hook, neck crank. I'm like, yeah, you can't do that.
Right. Right. You
Why,
can't do
why
that.
can't I do that? Because you can't even hip escape yet. There's no point.
Right. Oh man, I love it. Well, I was talking to one lady here. There was one lady just had a podcast with. She was talking. What's your game plan when you grapple? Lay on them as long as I can. Isn't that a good thing to do?
Yeah, right.
Barabola, no way. It's none of that spinning nothing, man.
I
But
know. But I remember, and this is gonna date me, being that young kid and getting those Inside Kung Fu magazine or
yeah,
whatever
buddy.
Black Belt magazine,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
being like, Coach, can we do this? And like, no.
No, I still have Black Belt magazine that I pull up on my thing, and I have a big stack in my garage that I still flip through every now and then.
Dude,
Man,
those magazines were so awesome. We were
they
so
were the
spoiled,
best.
you
We
know.
were, weren't we? Oh man, they were the best, man.
That's
Black Belt Kung Fu. Oof.
that's probably one of the ways the internet has hurt martial arts.
Yeah,
Right?
man. Yeah.
Because you get so many people with so many bajillion opinions now, you don't
Yep.
know who's worth listening to.
You're right.
And then these young kids come in with all these crazy videos of some submission that doesn't even work 1% of the time, you know?
Right. Right, man. But those magazines, think about it, man. How many times we pull those magazines, that same one out over and over and
Oh,
over
yeah.
again, looking at the same techniques and just been amazed by them. Man, we sound like two old guys on the porch. And stay
Well,
off
that's
my
what,
lawn.
but think about this, a whole lot more thought had to go into publishing that magazine
Yep.
than making that little quick Instagram video or whatever they're
Yeah.
called,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right, man. That man, those. But listen, we're just aging ourselves, man. I love it
Oh, I
though,
know.
man. I still got the big
Yeah.
stack of them out there. I still look at them in the garage, man. But here, when did you get started in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Um, right around 2007, we were still training pretty hard kung fu, but MMA had started to get really popular by then, right?
Right.
And a couple of the guys came to our mutual teacher and said, "Hey, they're starting to have these matches in town. Can we go do that?"
Okay.
And to my teacher at the time, to his credit, he said, "If we're going to do that, we have to train like they do."
Mm, smart.
So everybody was like, "Well, what does that mean?" He goes, "Well, we have to start wrestling on the ground," because we did a lot of stand-up wrestling, because a lot of traditional kung fu is stand-up wrestling. A lot of
Okay.
people don't know that.
No, I did not know that at all.
Yeah,
Wow.
the northern kung fu styles are really grappling oriented, and it makes sense with the influence from the Mongolian wrestling culture.
Okay.
I mean, like all the folk styles in China, they're all national like pastimes, right?
Right.
Like wrestling's huge in Asia, all kinds of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you think about how big judo and sumo are in Japan, it would be just the same in China of all their wrestling systems, right?
Wow. Did
So
not know
we
that.
did a ton of stand-up wrestling, which is why I love throwing people.
Okay.
But he's like, we gotta get submission grappling. So there wasn't really a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu in Omaha at the time. You're talking about 2000, almost 20 years ago now.
Oh wow, that is almost
And
20 years
even
too.
though Omaha, it's kind of a bigger Midwest city, it's still pretty small compared to like a Chicago or a Dallas or something like that, right?
Okay, yeah.
So not a whole lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time. Well, my teacher at the time, he knew a couple judo guys that actually specialized in Nawaza, so
Okay,
wrestling on the
yeah.
ground,
Yep.
where Brazilian jiu-jitsu comes from.
Yeah.
So they just started incorporating some of those lessons and going to cross train, and then that's when I went to grad school. So I left Nebraska for a few years. By the time I had gotten back, they'd gotten so good at that they were winning MMA matches and competing in submission grappling tournaments.
Wow.
And by then, jujitsu kind of had its foothold in Omaha, and there was a few schools, so there was just more opportunity for that.
Okay.
So that was 2007. So probably about 2008, the first time I came home from break, he's like, "Hey, we're just grappling all day, stand up and ground." I'm like, "Sweet." So it was
Okay.
about then. It had a different feel than straight Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
Okay.
just because of all of our Chinese wrestling background, and then the guys we were primarily training with were freestyle wrestlers.
Okay, yeah.
And the pressure's different. The
Yep.
feeling's different.
Oh yeah.
But Omaha is a huge high school wrestling area. I mean, we're right on the border of Iowa, the
Yep.
freestyle wrestling capital of the world.
Oh yeah. I
So
went to
lots
Iowa
lots
State.
of that kind of wrestling. So it just had that kind of feel,
Yeah.
with submissions in it. And then let's see, kid was born then. So about 2012, I pretty much turned the corner full swing to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, just grappling in general. I realized I could apply all my sweet kung fu moves
Yeah.
in that grappling aspect too. So it just kind of made sense,
Makes
you
sense.
know, to morph into that.
Yeah. Now is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like and I don't want to say, your best and favorite in the whole wide world, but is it one of your top where you feel that's very practical for you for the most part?
This is a yes and no answer. So
Okay.
yes, and if it's trained in context, right?
Right.
I don't mind competing. I like competing, but my goal for martial arts was not competition based. It was always self-defense based.
Gotcha.
And sometimes I think jiu-jitsu guys can be too more competition based than self-defense based, and there can be a difference there, and a difference that could, win or lose the fight or the altercation, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I
You
get it.
know,
I get it.
and we talk about it a lot in class because where I train now, their focus comes from MMA.
Okay.
So, like doing a hip escape from a certain position, you put your face right in strike range.
Right.
Well, let's not do that.
Okay. Good point.
Stuff like that. So yes, so that's the yes and no. If we're training with the context that meets my goals, it's absolutely one of the best things on the planet.
Gotcha.
If it doesn't fulfill that requirement, I'm going to say no.
Got it.
But that's a personal preference. If you're just in it because competition's all you care about, then that works for you,
You always got to assume they've got buddies and they're going to come
Yep,
stomp you
absolutely.
to death, But yeah, so how many competitions have you competed a lot in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I was for a while. I got injured right when COVID kicked off.
Yeah.
And then I had some complications. I actually deal with a lot of chronic pain. I got my sinuses injured very badly when I was young.
Okay.
And now that I'm older, it's come back to haunt me.
Gotcha.
So I deal with chronic head pain and migraine-like events pretty much constantly. So sometimes, like, it's just hard to go, I don't trust people.
Okay. I get it.
So like if I'm having a bad day where my head is killing me and my nerve damage is just out of control, I can trust my team to not go too hard or like grab my head.
Right.
Because most of this stuff is my head and like the nerve damage is across the bridge of my nose, right?
Okay, gotcha.
So when it's pissed off, it's angry, it's mad, but I still want to train. So I'll still go train, but I can trust my team to not grab my face. But when you're in a competition, nobody cares that your face hurts,
They want to make it hurt more.
So, it's hard for me to compete because I never know day to day how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And after I'd broken my shoulder at COVID, right when COVID kicked off, and I was getting ready for a big tournament from the Nebraska State Games. I was feeling good. And I went to do my physical, and my doctor said, no, not yet.
Oh, dang.
And he explained why, and he was just looking out for me, and I get it.
Yeah.
And I actually listened to him this time and didn't do the competition.
He's actually listened this time. Oh, man.
But he was right. He was right. I was still too fresh off the injuries. I had just had surgery, and he was like, I don't know, man, and he's like, I get it. It's your life,
Yeah.
He's like, but I don't think it's a good idea right now.
Gotcha.
And I said, okay. I said, what are we looking at here? He says, if you can meet these parameters in the next 6 months, I won't have a problem with it. And I'll sign the form and you can go.
Okay.
And I said, okay.
How much did you do of the list? All of it?
Not most of it.
Yeah, that's what those guys do. Yeah, I know it. I get it. I feel you, brother.
Oh, but, man. I mean, at the end of the day, he was right. I wasn't ready. I did have a couple setbacks that he was worried about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a good call on him, and I have a good relationship with my doctor. So
that's good. Real good.
It ended up being a good thing, and I was right to listen because it could have ended up very poorly for me,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and then to your question of, dealing with injuries and whatnot, and how do you modify as you get older? Everybody I train with, except for one person, is 20 years younger than me, minimum.
Wow. Yeah.
There are days where I can hit every round with them, and there are days that I can't.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and on those days, I'm just like, all right, guys, that's all I got today. And they all
Yeah.
respect that because at 45, they see me pretty much keeping up for the most part,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
The other thing about, and this, it's from my medical background too, you know, some days you just got to go slower, right?
Yeah. That's true,
Y-
man.
You know, and you can do anything and we can do anything the young guys can do. We'll have to go slower and we might have
Yeah.
to modify it,
Yeah.
but we can still do it.
We'll get
We just
there.
have to, we got to tell the body and the brain, like, hey, we got to get on the same page here. And the brain's going to go, I feel like I'm 20 today. And your knee goes, no, you
No.
don't.
Exactly. An
So
internal battle.
you're right. But you find that happy median, you know?
Yeah.
So like the days that my head is acting up really bad, some days I can't even hardly stand to lay on my back
Oh, wow.
because it just was weird. Right.
Yeah.
But I can still go to class and I can still do some movements and I can help some of the new guys and I
Yeah.
still get something out of that, right?
Right. Right.
You know, and then the days where I'm on one, I remind all the young guys why they should respect old guys in the sport.
There you go.
You know, and like last week, I think I got 3 guys on the team with hip over sweeps. You know, and I'm like, I'm just
Oh,
gonna do hip over sweeps,
all
and they were
day.
like, oh, yeah, and that's the only thing I did all night just to remind them that I can still do that.
This old dog can still bite. I like it.
Yeah, yeah, you know. But then the next day, you know, they all got me with something. You know,
Yeah. You just got to be very humble on the mat at these ages, man. You just got to
you
take what
really
you're going to
do,
take
and
and just
that's
like, okay.
well, and the sooner you can instill that in the young guys, they're gonna have a longer career too.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
guy on my team right now. He still can't train. He competes the whole time. He hasn't
Really?
learned how to train yet. Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, if we're going, even if we're going at a light pace and you get a choke on him, oh my God, his eyes open. He has tunnel vision all of a sudden and it's go time.
Wow. Oh, wow.
You know?
Wow.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, you're gonna fade out so much faster than if you
Yeah.
just recognize that we're just learning, right?
Yeah. Take your time. You'll get there. Yeah.
Well, and the best revenge is to not let me get that choke again or that heel hook or whatever it is.
Good
You
point.
know, it's not to get pissed off and start slamming everybody.
Right. Because that does nothing for you at
No, you don't
all.
learn there.
You end up getting yourself hurt because some of those big dogs be like, okay, let's turn this heat up then if you want to play that game. And we don't
Well,
want to see
that or
that on
you
the
get
mat.
one of the coaches that come over and this young man has been told to go sit in the corner a couple times
Yeah. Because he can't
just
control
because
himself.
he couldn't control his temper or his
Yeah.
speed.
Yeah.
And some of the other guys are like, "Hey, I don't like training with this guy because he's too wild,
Yeah. Yeah. We've
and
all
that's
seen
not
them.
fair to them."
Yeah. But a lot of times you'll see guys that come in and I won't say a lot of times. Sometimes you get guys like that come into a gym and they don't understand anything about the art. They just know to fight, 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 fight,
Right,
fight.
right, right.
It's like, but you got to slow down and speed up. You got to, they don't take all that during training. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they learn the right way. Sometimes they learn the wrong way, the hard
Well, and
way.
that's what. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, training is training, and fight camp is fight camp,
Yeah,
and they're 2 different things. They're
exactly.
2 different things.
Absolutely. Now, when did you get into acupuncture? Man, that's pretty cool. I know I joked when I first came on, so acupuncture, I got stuck by a pin and it hurt,
Yeah.
but it was, I've never tried acupuncture and I always thought I was amazed by it though, watching some people
Um,
do that.
I got interested first back in '99. So
Okay.
I was taking some Tai Chi lessons because that was the only thing around I could find. And I just thought it was just neat. That's kind of what got me started in all of the Chinese martial arts was that first Tai
Okay.
Chi class.
Really? Okay.
Because Tai Chi is primarily stand-up wrestling.
Really?
So when it came to doing the application of the Tai Chi set, so when you see all those old people moving slow and waving their hands,
Yeah.
those are primarily throws.
Really? Holy
If you
cow.
think if you think about standing in, you standing in a basic fight stance, right?
Yeah.
So you got your boxing stance, your left foot forward, your right foot back, hands are up. if you extend one hand forwards and backwards and twist,
Yeah.
and then imagine a body being between your leg and your arm now.
Yeah.
That's a throw. Well,
Okay.
that you see that a lot in those sets, that they step into that low stance, that arm comes out, and then it pushes over. They're
Yeah.
just throwing somebody. But because they're old and doing it really slow, everyone's like, oh, they're just dancing, right?
Yeah. They're trying to breathe.
So started taking those Tai Chi lessons, and I really enjoyed that style of martial art. So then I found a better teacher, and I was really sick. And I called him. I said, hey, I'm not quitting. I've just been really sick. That's why I haven't been in for a month. And I think I had pneumonia,
Oh,
and
wow.
at 20 some years old, I mean, it knocked the crap out of me.
Wow.
And he goes, well, what's going on? I says, well, I had pneumonia, blah, blah, blah. I'm so exhausted and I can't function right now and I can barely go to work. And he goes, well, hey, just if you're interested, uh, I practice some of this. And it was acupuncture and herbal supplements.
Yeah.
And if you want, just come after work one day and let me see if I can help you. And I was like, well, anything's better than feeling like crap.
Right.
So I went in, he did the things and gave me a bag of herbs and we did some stuff. And in a couple days, I started feeling better, and not a little better, like drastically better.
Wow.
Like there's no way it wasn't the bag of herbs that he gave me, right? There's no
Gotcha.
way it was not that. It's like when you get antibiotics and 2 days later you feel like you're not going to die finally, right?
Right. Right.
You know it was the medication that worked.
Exactly.
I know it was that worked. So bookstores were really popular back then. So I just started going to read books, and all kinds of books on acupuncture, on just healthy eating, exercise, whatever. My mom was a nurse, so I started asking her questions and her colleagues questions. And we had
Oh,
the
wow.
same family doctor for like 30 years. So I started asking him questions. One of my coaches at the time, fast forward a couple years, was a chiropractor. So we were
Okay.
talking about it, and I said, I think I want to go to either chiropractor school or osteopathic school. And I hadn't had any undergrad at the time, or I didn't complete undergrad, and I was 24-ish, 25-ish.
Okay.
And he says, though that's fine, and I think you should do that, but have you looked at, and he said acupuncture, PT, and something else, being a
Mm.
physical therapist. He says, I think you would really enjoy those more than these, just based on knowing you and blah, 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 your personality and
Yeah.
all that. Just check them out. So I started checking them out a little bit more, and I just kept coming back to acupuncture and how interesting it was. And then one day I was working, I was flipping burgers, and I'm like, this is not my life.
Okay. Got it.
What do I
Got
need
it.
to do? And the next day I started calling schools and started applying and finishing undergrad, and
Wow.
here we are, doctor of acupuncture.
That's pretty cool,
Yeah.
man. Wow. I like that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool, man. Nice story on that. I like that. So when you,
And it was quite the journey to get here.
yeah, but you're here, right?
Absolutely.
It's the
I mean,
prize, man.
what is that old saying? It's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
I did a lot of stuff. I met a lot of people along the way. And I will say, my mother let me make mistakes, and that was
Oh,
probably the best thing she ever did for me.
yeah. Yeah.
And I made some small mistakes and some significant mistakes, and she stood there and she didn't say I told you so,
Yeah.
but it was okay, did you learn your lesson? Can we move on now? Okay, good. You know?
Wow. That's a mom. That's a true
Mhm.
parent right there. That's a true parent. Wow. Is your mom still around?
Yeah, yeah. She
Okay.
in fact, she used to come train with us on on a regular basis.
Oh man. Your
She
mom's a
would
kick
come
ass.
in.
That's awesome.
We taught her some of like the Tai Chi set, and then she liked doing all the Sanda kickboxing drills with the team back in the day.
Wow.
So yeah, she would put gloves on and do all the pad work and bag work.
Oh man, that's pretty cool, man. It's good to hear that you and your mom are real close. That's good
Oh
stuff, man. I love that, man.
yeah.
Wow. Now, when you use acupuncture, you can use for almost anything, or how? What are you like your main clients
Yeah,
seek
I
that you
mean,
use?
it's like anything. Well, it's how am I trying to say here? It's very good for some things. It's pretty good for other things. It's not so good for some things too, you know?
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
right now, my clinic, we specialize in chronic pain, neuropathy.
Okay.
Um, I'm really, really good specialty migraine and headaches.
Really? Okay. Because you see
I'm
that a
kind of
lot
yeah.
nowadays.
I'm kind of known for that in Omaha here.
Really?
If you got
Okay.
a weird migraine headache syndrome, go see Corey.
That's wow. Because I know friends that have migraines. They just debilitate. They just can't do
Yeah.
anything, man.
Oh
They
yeah.
just
A
done.
migraine can ruin your life.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Um, things that I don't treat, like I hate treating tinnitus. It's hard for me. I'm not good at it, and I tell
Okay.
people that, you know. So I don't say it's good for everything. It's useful for a lot of things, and it's really good at some other things. And then just because of what I specialized in with it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my patients are a little bit older, you know, looking to get some of their life back.
Okay.
You know, I don't treat a lot of younger people. I really don't like working on athletes.
Oh, really? Really? You think that'd be one of your biggest clients? Wow.
Well, they can be, but they can also be one of the biggest headache clients, one of the biggest pain in the ass clients.
Okay.
And it's just the nature of the game.
Yeah.
Um, my clinic isn't set up for that either, you know. So if you had some young athlete coming in, they need to be back on the field right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. That's probably not that's just not the patient that I'm looking for.
Okay.
It would be harder for me to get them back on the field faster than, you know, the athletic trainers and the physical therapists, you know.
Okay. That's what you mean.
You know,
But all,
just it's everything fits is what I'm saying.
yeah, well, all that together could help. Yeah,
Mhm.
everything, everything. Like I use
And
massage
I
therapy once a week and all these other things.
yeah, massage is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and as an older guy, I go see my chiropractor a
Yep.
lot.
Yep. I see mine well, man. I'm with you on that, man.
You know, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week
Yeah.
depending on how crunchy I've been feeling at class.
Right, right. I love chiropractic. I went a long time without liking chiropractors, and not for any other reason. I was just like, they're gonna crack my spine. What if they break my neck? And I just stayed away from them. And then once I needed them, I can't stop using them. And there's
Well,
a
and this
couple
is
of chiropractors at our gym, and those
yeah,
guys are awesome.
this this goes for anything, any service. You have to like the provider, right?
Okay. Yep.
You know, and my chiropractor is also an athlete. He's a power lifter. So when I tell him that I'm sad because I can't do XYZ, he understands a little bit more than the doctor who's never been an athlete, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you have
Yeah.
to find providers that understand you that you get along with. I have people come into my clinic. I had a gentleman a couple weeks ago. I just told him flat out, I don't think this was the place for him. I
Mm.
just didn't think he was going to get what he was looking for at my clinic.
Well, that says you're an honest physician too, man. You're
Yeah.
honest. You know you're correct. You're not trying to just take someone's money. You want to
No,
help them.
absolutely not. I would
Yeah.
rather him get better somewhere else than not get better at my clinic.
Right. Right. Wish most doctors were like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'd have a better
Yeah.
health system out there, man, if it was, man.
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
Right? Right? Oh, man. But that's pretty cool, man. So you have the whole gamut. You went from the martial arts and you have that, and then you have the acupuncture. And just from the visual effect of it, for me personally, been, like we talked about earlier, having old kung fu schools and
Yeah.
watching the movies and all that. And you see the acupuncture, it's just like it seems like it all just comes together, man.
You know, and I joke about that, and even some of the young guys on my team joke that I'm Kung Fu Panda or whatever. You
Okay.
know, because well, yeah, I mean, you've seen that movie. They're
Yeah.
all the weird kung fu ness, and then they're doing acupuncture needles after class.
Yeah.
You know, and
I
I'm like,
love it.
yeah, but it was martial arts that got me into acupuncture, but I
Yeah.
wasn't specifically looking to get into acupuncture as I was looking to get into medicine
Okay.
and just liked the acupuncture path the best. You know,
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah.
feel like if I would have got started in medicine earlier, like right out of high school, I probably
Yeah.
would have been a surgeon or an osteopath of some kind,
Okay. Makes
you
sense.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. But as
That
time
that
goes on.
schooling is so much longer and harder to get into in your mid 20s,
Yeah.
that it just made more sense. Like I said, it was just the fit of the acupuncture path. That was it.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
fit better.
That's cool, man. But you never know until you know, right? You go through
Absolutely.
your whole process. That is pretty cool, man. What are some life principles that you live by right now that helps you move forward?
You got to have your nutrition on point.
Okay.
Being a medical provider, my perspective is going to be different. But saying that, if you don't put the right fuel in the vehicle, it's not going to go anywhere.
Mm, gotcha.
So when I meet older guys, it's usually older guys who are like, I wish I could do this, but XYZ. And I'm like, yeah, but you walked in here eating McDonald's, drinking a gallon of Coke,
There you go. There
like
you go.
fix that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
gotta have your like family life good too. I am absolutely blessed in that my wife doesn't care that I go train 5 days a week.
That's cool, man.
She encourages it. I could not do that if I did not have a partner that was supportive like that, right?
That's true. That's true, man.
And she recognizes all the benefit I get from it. You know, uh, it it's my primary workout because I hate going to the gym because that's
Yeah.
boring.
Got it.
You
Got it.
know,
Yeah.
so I get my physical workout. It's a mental workout because come on, you're fighting somebody the whole time.
Right. That's a serious mental workout. That's the
It's a
truth.
social outlet because you
Yeah.
go to hang out with people you enjoy. Otherwise, you wouldn't go.
Yeah.
So it checks all those boxes. So if you're not checking those boxes at home, trying to train isn't gonna do a lot for you there.
That's
So you got
true.
to put the right fuel in the vehicle, and you got to have the right home base.
Yeah.
And
That keeps you
if
grounded.
you don't get those two things right, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're not going to be successful.
I like that. You're right. You're right. Because you said something a few minutes ago. You said your guy comes eating a Big Mac and drinking a Coke and want to be healthier. You got to start somewhere, and it
Yeah,
takes those small steps. Now,
it really does.
if you had a person walk in, let's say a guy that's let's say a guy our age, never done anything in his life, and he comes into your clinic or comes to your gym and says, "Hey, I want to start doing this." What's the first thing you're probably going to tell him to do? Well, a couple of things if you have them.
Well, yeah. So first, you got to gauge, you got to meet them at their level, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You know, my level at 45 is going to be different than the average guy who's never trained before. It doesn't matter if he was the star high school college athlete.
yeah.
If he's 45 and left athletics in college, it's been 20 years since he's really done anything, right?
Right,
So we got to
right,
meet him at their level. So we first just has to ask, like, what's the goal? You
right,
know,
right.
is the goal to be competitive? Because we can still be competitive in our 40s.
Yeah,
There's good competitions for 40-year-olds.
yeah.
Or are you just looking to learn a little self-defense?
Gotcha.
That's going to change what we're going to do. If you want to be competitive, we got to do the whole thing. You got to stop eating garbage, you got to exercise, you got to sleep, you got to
Yeah,
do the whole things to be an athlete. If you're
yeah,
looking just for some self-defense, my biggest thing there is just make sure you'll show up to class 2 times a week minimum for
yeah.
about 6 months.
There you go.
And then, so questions like that can be hard to answer because it just depends on what do they want? What are they after? It doesn't matter what I want.
Right, right. Well, you answered it perfectly. You really did. Hey,
Well,
why are you here? Right?
it reminds
That's
me
perfect.
it reminds me of something that happened to me about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. There's a really high level competitor in Omaha. And I'm not going to say his name because I don't, and it's nothing negative. I just
Gotcha. I get
you
it.
know. Um, but he gets invited to all the big tournaments. He has a really nice big school not far from me. The people there are very nice. They train their butts off. Nothing but good technique, good people go there, right?
Right.
But their training methodology and the goal for that gym was not my goal.
Gotcha.
So I transferred there because we were all under the same national organization at the time, right?
Hmm.
You know how local jiu-jitsu gym will be part of a bigger group.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Exactly.
we were all part of the same bigger group, and that group closed because of COVID. So I went to train over there.
Yeah.
Training there for 6, 8, 9 months. And like I said, they're nice people, but the goal of training was different. They were training to be primarily competitors.
Yeah.
At that point in my life, I was starting to turn down the competitive grappling and go into the longevity grappling and back to my self-defense roots.
Okay. Gotcha.
Our goals were different.
Yeah.
Once I realized that, it didn't make sense for me to train there anymore.
Yeah. It's not good
And
or
it was
bad. It's
not
just what
because
you didn't want to do. Yeah. Yeah.
and it was had nothing to do with a negative experience on anybody's part. It
Yeah.
just my goal was different than their goal. So when I met the guys that I train with now, and I said, I just laid it out. I was like, this is my plan. This is what I want to do. This is my goal. And the head coach, Marty, the head jiu-jitsu coach, he says, well, that's my goal for you now.
Awesome.
Your goal is my goal. I want to help you reach that goal, and we can do that here.
That's awesome.
You know? So it was just the different mentality of around training there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I say when you got a guy brand new coming in who's never done anything, you have to understand his goal.
Yeah. Very right. That is true. And you touched on something there. I think we'll have a lot less people quitting martial arts if the coach understood their goal.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And not trying to fit everybody in that box. And some people just don't want to be fighters, or some people just don't want to go the whole thing. I get it, man.
And that was, you know, my the gentleman that I train with, primarily Kung Fu out in LA, his name's Tim Cartmel. He's actually for a 5th degree black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. So really
cool.
well-rounded teacher.
Yeah.
He's said, you know, he was the one that kind of got me thinking about that. You just have to be honest about the goal and why you're there.
Yeah.
You know, and when we were training primarily Chinese martial arts, some people will come train just because they think that culture is neat.
Right.
And that's okay. That's a good reason to train.
Yeah.
You know? And some people will come train because they want exercise. I always thought going to the gym and lifting weights was boring, so I don't do that a lot. You know?
Yeah, I feel
But that's why I liked martial art classes.
Yeah.
You know, and I could schedule class time then, and it makes me more accountable because it's a class.
Yeah.
You know, so if they're there just for health and exercise, that's a good reason to be there.
That's okay too.
You know, if all they want to do is go through the kata, the forms, great. Apply that to your jiu-jitsu team now. Some guys are going to be there to be competitive. Some guys are going to be there just for exercise. Some guys are going to be there for social hour.
Yeah.
Those are all good reasons to go to class.
That's true. Man, you hit a lot on here, man. I like this, man. We got to get deeper on another podcast. We got to do another episode. I sure will,
by Corey.
Right, there you go. But before we get you out of here, tell us everything, how to find you, your clinic, how to find your social media, phone numbers, anything you want to put out there.
All right. So Corey Ninehouse, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. My clinic is 4 Paths, Paths Acupuncture. The clinic number is 402-515-2412. My local jiu-jitsu team is Dynasty Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu of Nebraska. They're all over Facebook, the internet. Unfortunately, I don't have the phone number memorized for the team.
Yeah, right. That's all right. That's okay.
But we train out of Steiner Academy in Omaha, Nebraska. So Dynasty Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Steiner Academy. Come find us. We're there a lot. We're a good, smaller school, you know, so we get a lot of attention, a lot of personal attention from the coaches. And we're always happy when guys come in and check us out. And like, if you need some help with health questions or whatever, and you're around Omaha, give us a call.
Man, that's awesome, brother. Man, this has been so fun, man. I love
Yes,
doing
sir.
podcasts where you get a lot of information, stuff I can take and use myself too. I'm not gonna try acupuncture on myself, but
Yeah,
I will try. But brother, this has been awesome, Corey. And man, I tell you, we got to get you on again. But brother, I
yeah, I
appreciate you more than
appreciate
you
it.
know, man.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, reach out. I'd be happy to come back.
Hey, sounds good, brother. We'll be talking to you soon. Take care out there in Omaha, Nebraska, and do your thing, brother. We'll talk
All
soon.
right. Thanks, boss.
Take care of yourself, brother. Bye bye.
Oh, man.